The AI Dilemma and the Buddha's Strategy, a masterclass in communication. Welcome to today's deep dive. Honestly, what we are going to talk about today is incredibly fascinating. Imagine this: today's most cutting-edge artificial intelligence with its mind-blowing computing power attempts to decode ancient texts that have been passed down for thousands of years. Then what happens? It hits a wall. It encounters a barrier it can barely cross. This major clash between modern technology and ancient texts isn't just a test of how well we can train AI. What's even more incredible is that it actually unearths a masterclass-level communication strategy from history. Whether you want to boost your own learning efficiency or are simply curious about how the ancients transmitted such complex ideas, today's content will absolutely open your eyes. Alright, let's get straight into it. We have broken today's deep dive into 5 distinct parts. The translation trap: AI and ancient texts. The triad of effective communication: the 3 elements. Decoding the Amitabha Sutras: the case study. The miracle of sweeping away the dust: a radical teaching method. Sowing your own seeds of connection: practical application. Let us begin with part 1. The translation trap: AI and ancient texts. Have you ever wondered why an AI with such massive computing power, or even highly educated, intelligent humans, can completely freeze up, as if reading gibberish, when encountering ancient Buddhist scriptures? You might think, can't we just feed it dictionaries and language corpora? It's really not that simple. The vocabulary definitions used by the ancients and our modern ways of expression belong to 2 entirely different worlds. If we rigidly apply modern concepts to interpret ancient texts, the result will be completely off mark. What AI truly lacks when it comes to translation is that vital context and cultural lineage spanning thousands of years. Take a classic example from history. When great ancient translators were translating Sanskrit from ancient India, they often got stuck on whether to choose a semantic translation translating the meaning or a phonetic transliteration matching the sound. Some concepts were straightforward. Translating a name to the Buddha of infinite light made instant sense to everyone. But when they encountered words like Praja, transcendental wisdom, which carry a massive, built-in database of philosophical contexts, well, if you insisted on translating it into plain, modern terms, you might have to pull out the entire Shurangama Sutra just to provide enough background knowledge for a single sentence. No exaggeration. Therefore, the translators of that era chose to directly preserve the original pronunciation using transliteration. They did this because such deep, ultimate truth simply cannot be wrapped up in a few casual words. This brings us to part 2. The triad of effective communication. Let us look at how the Buddha actually approached communication. You should know that when the Buddha gave teachings back then, it wasn't some cookie-cutter public lecture where the audience fell asleep. He utilized a highly customized teaching framework based on 3 essential pillars. Capacity, root, aptitude. In plain terms, this means the listener's current foundational ability, intellect, and capacity to absorb information. A true master only says what the listener can understand at that exact moment. You wouldn't teach calculus to a primary schooler who is still memorizing multiplication tables. Right, the Buddha read people perfectly. If content exceeded a person's current capacity, he wouldn't say a single extra word. Inclination, joyful interest. This refers to whether the listener is genuinely interested, happy, and open to receiving the message. Think about it: if someone has zero interest in a topic or is even resistant to it, then no matter how beautifully or profoundly you speak, you are just playing the lute to a cow. It won't work at all. Thus, inclination is the crucial key that unlocks the listener's heart. Conditions, karmic affinity, timing. This refers to the necessary background conditions, past connections, and most importantly, timing. Sometimes, a person clearly understands the concept capacity and is very eager to learn inclination. But if the timing isn't right, or the background conditions haven't aligned, the teaching and communication will still fail. Only when these 3 elements align perfectly do you achieve truly effective communication. Decoding the Amitabha Sutras. Now, let us move into part 3 and look at how this framework operates in practice. To prove this isn't just theoretical, let us analyze the famous Amitabha texts. The level of customization here is absolutely jaw-dropping. Think about it: we have 3 core scriptures focused on the exact same destination, the Pure Land, yet the presentation changes completely based on who is listening. First, look at the Amitabha Sutra. This was spoken specifically to Sariputra and other arhats. Because this audience already had a profound foundational understanding, the content is highly concise and direct. Then, we have the longer Sukha Vihastra, the greater Amitabha Sutra. This one is geared toward Mahayana practitioners who had already generated the mind of enlightenment. The scope here is much grander. So the Buddha directly unfolds the Sishabhafals, laying out an incredibly expansive and detailed worldview. Finally, there is the Contemplation Sutra. This was delivered to Queen Vaidhi, a lay person with deep-seated wholesome roots who was going through a horrific family tragedy in the human world. The Buddha didn't lecture her with abstract theories. Instead, he met her right in the middle of her real-world suffering and provided a highly practical, step-by-step visualization method. Look at that. It is the exact same ultimate destination. But because the audience's capacity, inclination, and conditions differed, the communication and entry points were completely inverted. This level of tailored precision is absolute. In the Contemplation Sutra, the Buddha provided incredibly strict, step-by-step visualization procedures because it was a specialized, extreme operation designed for a specific individual. If later generations try to be clever and alter it even slightly, adding or skipping a step, it can easily lead them astray into dangerous delusions. This serves as a serious warning to us when dealing with highly customized, specialized information. You cannot arbitrarily alter it. The consequences are entirely untenable. Furthermore, let us look at the fascinating number Arshi. In another profound text, the Avatamsaka Sutra, the Buddha used at least Arshi different terms just to describe the single concept of suffering dukkha. Why go through all that trouble? Simple, because everyone perceives pain differently. If you use term A with one group of people, they might feel nothing. But if you switch to term B, you precisely pierce the life pain point of another group, and they instantly realize, oh my goodness, yes, this is suffering. I must let it go. This is the highest art of communication. The miracle of sweeping away the dust. This brings us to part 4. You might be wondering, what if we encounter an audience whose capacity is basically zero? Does this framework still work? Let me introduce a very famous disciple named Siddhartha. He couldn't even remember a few basic sentences of plain language philosophy, let alone study profound scriptures. His memory was so poor that normal learning was practically impossible. Honestly, any ordinary teacher would have thrown up their hands and given up. Yet, the Buddha didn't lecture him or talk about the ultimate truths of the universe. Instead, he gave Siddhartha just 4 words: sweep dust, remove dirt. The Buddha's micro lesson. Since you cannot remember complex theories, just go sweep the floor. While you sweep, simply recite these 4 words. This was an ultra miniature, exclusive curriculum tailored precisely to his capacity. Let's look at how this radical lesson plan worked wonders through 4 distinct stages. Stage E, physical action. Siddhartha began his mundane daily routine of sweeping. It was purely mechanical at first. Stage R, intense focus. Because his mind only held those 4 words, he entered a state of supreme concentration. Aside from eating and sleeping, he just swept the floor with absolute single-mindedness. Stage 3, the quantum leap. Quantity triggered a quality transformation. He suddenly had an epiphany. This isn't just about the dust on the ground. The wandering thoughts and delusions in our minds are the dust, our negative emotions and defilements are the dirt. Stage 4, instant awakening. He instantly connected to the Buddha's network of wisdom and achieved full enlightenment. Think about it, a person who couldn't even remember a few words achieved the highest spiritual realization, simply because he used a method that was a 100% perfect fit for him. Sowing your own seeds of connection. We have talked so much about ancient stories, but what profound insights do they hold for our modern learning, or even for how we train AI today? The most critical takeaway is that conditions and inclination never just drop from the sky. They require you to actively build them. The ancients understood this perfectly. When they realized they felt nothing toward profound wisdom, meaning they lacked the necessary conditions, they didn't just sit around passively waiting. What did they do? They would actively pool their money to fund the woodblock printing of scriptures. You have to realize that back then, if you carved a single character wrong, the entire woodblock was ruined. It required massive financial investment and absolute focus. They would also make deep vows or perform sincere prostrations to cultivate a genuine relationship with the knowledge. To put it bluntly, they were actively engineering their own conditions for learning. Conclusion. In summary, whether you are learning something yourself or we are trying to get an AI to comprehend these ancient texts, true understanding can never be forced. It goes back to the old saying, if you don't have the patience to build a solid foundation first, if you don't cultivate a craving for knowledge inclination, and if you don't gradually elevate your own baseline capacity, then even if the highest wisdom in the universe is placed right in front of your eyes, it will be nothing more than an unreadable jumble of garbled code. This really forces us to reflect on our modern pace of life. People today are often in a rush to see results. We want to instantly understand the most complex technology or profound knowledge. Yet we forget that we must first fertilize and water the soil. Before we conclude today's deep dive, I want to leave you with one question to ask yourself. In this fast-paced, complex world of information explosion, what kind of seeds are you sowing for yourself right now, so that you can truly absorb and understand deep, meaningful knowledge? I hope this question becomes the most valuable takeaway you carry with you today. See you next time.